Charlie, for that introduction, which was so beautiful, and for your fearless leadership of Turning Point Action and Turning Point USA. Thank you, Charlie, very much. Let me also express my incredible appreciation to the thousands of bold, young, and proud American patriots that are with us today. What a crowd, what a crowd. And you think this is a lot of people, you ought to look outside. It's about 110 degrees or something. That's an incredible group. So thank you. Thank you to the people outside. We love you. You are the pulse of our movement, so true, and you are the ones who will make America great again. You know, I started saying, make America great again, again. Think of that. Think about that. Because nobody's done what we did in 4 years, the greatest economy, but we'll be talking about it. We have plenty of time. Does everybody have some time? Yeah? I said, I look forward to the speech. They said, oh, good. I said, how long a flight is it? About 5.5 hours, sir. I said, oh, well, man, can we maybe do it by Zoom? But Zoom will never replace the real thing. Do we agree? Especially for our great young students. It cannot replace being in the classroom, can it? With your help, we will stand up for democracy and for justice. We will fight for truth, transparency, and accountability. And we will not stop until we have restored our American birthright of honest, free, and fair elections. We're gathered here in Phoenix to show our support for election integrity and for the brave and unyielding conservative warriors in the Arizona State Senate. Thank you. Thank you. You've created a movement all over the country. This is now starting all over the country. I'm hearing Texas wants to do a forensic audit. I just heard that. Even though I won Texas by a lot, I said you should do it because you'll find out what's going on in this country. It's crazy. You know, when you hear defund the police, when you hear no IDs, of course, now they're trying to get into the, oh, we never really said that. You know, it's crazy. But when you hear open borders, how about open borders, all this stuff? In my opinion, there's no way they win elections without cheating. There's no way. There's no way. No Second Amendment. They're against energy. We were energy independent 2 months ago, energy independent. Now we're not energy independent. I saw where they're negotiating now with OPEC again. Here we go again. They are negotiating right now with OPEC and with Russia. We had so much oil, we didn't know what the hell to do with it. It's not even believable. They closed up so many sites. Today, I want to send our profound and everlasting gratitude to every Arizona Republican who had the fortitude and the backbone to defy the lying media. Look at that. Ooh, it's a lot of media. A lot of media. A lot of media. See, the red lights are starting to go off now. They're going, cut, cut. He's at it again. He's talking about the media. Now it's easy. Hey, look, some of them are down almost 80%. Can you believe that? And that's because they lose credibility. But I want to, just to finish, we want to demand a full forensic audit of the results of Maricopa County. I particularly want to thank Arizona Senate President Karen Fann. She's been brave. She's been strong. And I predict when the votes come in, and that's her in the Senate, I think they're going to be so horrible that she's going to go 3 steps further than she ever thought she'd have to, because they will be, in my opinion, and again, I'm not involved, they're involved. This is the Arizona State Senate. I think the results will be so outrageous. You've already seen some of them come, that they're going to go many steps further than they would have. Judiciary Committee Chairman Warren Peterson. Where's Warren? Thank you, Warren. Thank you, Warren. He's here someplace. Thank you, Warren. And we did win. We really did. Not me. We all won. We won. Everybody knows it. You know, when you looked at election night, we were up by so much, it was over at 10 o'clock, and then all of a sudden, they closed the tabulation areas. They closed everything. And we wake up, and all of a sudden, it's tied or we're losing. And nobody believes it. They don't believe it. I tell you right now, they don't believe it. State Senators J.D. Mesnard, Kelly Townsend. Kelly, you've been so incredible. Kelly, J.D., thank you. Where's Kelly? Kelly, thank you. Great job. Tremendous courage you have. I appreciate it. The whole country appreciates it really a lot. Nancy Bartow. Nancy, wherever you may be. Nancy, thank you. Thank you very much. Great job. Thanks, Nancy. Nice to meet you. See, they all think I'm involved. I'm not involved. These are people that did this by themselves. They wanted to do it. They had to do it. They saw what was going on, and they did it. So I'm meeting some of you for the first time. Senator Kerr. Where is Senator Kerr? Senator Kerr. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. Somebody who's been a warrior. Again, I don't know him. Sonny Borelli. He's great. Where's Sonny? There he is. I recognize that man from television, but I don't know Sonny. But Sonny, you're really an amazing guy and a brave guy and a strong, smart guy. Thank you very much. All of you. Vince Leach. Where's Vince? Thank you, Vince. Thank you. Thank you very much, Vince. Great job. Somebody else who's really been out there that's been brave, who wants to go many steps further than anybody, Wendy Rogers, right? Thank you, Wendy. Great job. You knew the answer early on, Wendy. We're waiting for results, but you knew the answer. And I think Kelly Townsend is around someplace. Where's Kelly? Where's Kelly? Good, okay, good. I didn't see you in the audience. Now I want to, okay. So, by the way, Kelly has to get a special. Really great. Wendy, Kelly, Borelli, what a group. I wouldn't want to fight. I wouldn't want to fight you. Thank you. I like that. Wendy, you know, we just have a new one. Wendy, Kelly, and Borelli. That's going to be a very famous, statement someday, I suspect. Good. Great to meet you. Great. Republican Party Chairwoman, somebody that has tremendous courage, I will tell you. Somebody that's been fighting so long and so hard, and she never stops. And some people love her, and some people don't like her as much. I happen to love her. But she's really a fighter, and she fights your governor who doesn't do a damn thing. I mean, she's fighting. He doesn't do a damn thing. Chairwoman Kelly Ward. Kelly. I called up Kelly recently. I said, why wouldn't the governor want an audit? It shows, you know, I mean, maybe everything will prove to be correct, which we know won't happen. I said, why wouldn't this governor, Doug Ducey, you know, when I did rallies, he always wanted to be in the front row. Sir, could you mention my name, please? Or, yeah, I'll mention. And I did these rallies, and he wasn't very popular, but he won by a lot because he ran against a very defective candidate, which they found out after they nominated that Democrat. But I'd introduce him, and I wouldn't get much of an applause, and I'd get a lot of boos. And I kept saying, you know, this guy's not very popular. But now, you know what? He's not popular with me either. They came to see me. They said, "Sir, would you like him to run for the Senate?" I said, "He's not getting my endorsement, I can tell you that." The Mitch McConnell, there's another beauty, by the way, the Mitch McConnell Republican. The Mitch McConnell, the old crow. You know, he was losing his election in I'll tell you, Kentucky is a great place. I love Kentucky. They love me, and I love them. And I was way up, and he was losing by 2 points. And he said, "Sir, I'd like to see you." He comes over. "Would you give me a big endorsement, and could you do a television commercial?" And I didn't love the idea because I'm not too high on him. But it was between him or a woman named Amy McGrath, a Democrat. She had 93 million sitting in the bank, and he was 2 down, and he was going to get blown away. And I endorsed him, and he went up 20 points. 20. She didn't even spend her money. She had no chance. Because of my endorsement, he went up 20 points, and then he got up and said the nastiest things about me. And that's the way politics, look, that's the way politics is, I guess. Sonny, it's not that way in Arizona, is it? Oh, yeah. I think it is. Kelly, I think it is. No, it's not as bad. No, that was amazing. You know, you endorse somebody, you help somebody. I don't want any praise. I don't want anything, but I don't want to have that kind of a thing happen. So it's one of those things. But what you're doing here is incredible. As everyone here fully understands, the 2020 election was a total disgrace. It was the most corrupt. And I tell this to people, I tell it to Republicans, and a lot of them are very good people, and they say, "Well, sir, we have to get on to the future." Let me tell you, you're not going to have a future. First of all, our nation is being destroyed, but you're not going to have a future in 22 or 24 if you don't find out how they cheated with hundreds of thousands and even millions of votes, because you won't win anything. You won't win anything. And, you know, I tell Republicans, I say, you don't realize, because some of them, they're good meaning, really, a lot of them, most of them, we have certain people that are not good. I mean, they don't have the Mitt Romneys, the little Ben Sasses of the world. They don't have, I could name a few of them, little Ben Sass. Could I have your endorsement? Yes. The day after he won, he goes and starts going after Trump. But you know what? That's the way it is. But, you know, I tell people this is the biggest issue there is. This is bigger than the border. This is bigger than anything. This is the biggest issue. And I see it just here. And I'd say I'd make a speech, and I'll talk about the border, because we straighten out the border. We have the strongest border in history. We straighten out the border, and that's a big deal. But when you look at all of the death and destruction that this election has caused, and wait till you see what's happening with inflation. Wait till you see the real numbers on inflation and what's going on. And wait till you go to the pump today and you see $3.75. We were at $1.87 for a gallon of gasoline. It was the most corrupt, dishonest, and unfair election in the history of our country. The Democrats know it. The corrupt media, right back there, a lot of people, they know it. Big tech knows it, and most importantly, we, the American people, know it. We know it. But because of the steadfast conservatives all across our nation, and that's really happening now, if you look at what's going on all across, they've come from so many different states to look at your audit procedures. They go back, and I'll call them. I'll say, "How did you like it? What did you think?" They said, "We don't believe it." And then they're starting their own audits now. That's what's happening. They're coming and they're looking at what Karen and Kelly, they're looking what they all set up here, and they can't take it. Wendy, what you've done. Borelli, I love you, Borelli, you're Italian. I hope you're all Italian, Borelli. That's why I get along, okay? That's why I like him. Good. He's tough as nails, too. But you know what? They're coming and they're looking, and they go back to their state, and they say, "This is the most incredible thing that we've seen anytime." Why wouldn't somebody want election integrity? Why wouldn't they want to know? And I would be very happy. It won't happen, But I would be very happy if they did it and everything was perfect. But you're not going to find that. In fact, the preliminary numbers are a total disaster. And we're going to go over those numbers. The facts are coming out. The truth is being uncovered. And the crime of the century is being fully exposed. Thank you. A friend of mine said to me, very smart guy, said, it can't be the crime of the century. Nobody died. I said, no, people are dying every day at the border. They're going to be dying with what inflation is doing to our country. The crime has never been higher than it is now. You have in Chicago, hundreds of people are being shot every weekend. In Afghanistan, you know, we haven't lost one soldier in Afghanistan for the last year and a half. In Chicago, they have 188 people shot over a weekend, many of whom die. That's worse than any war zone anywhere in the world. Chicago and New York, what's happening in New York, the crime in New York. And Rudy Giuliani was the greatest mayor in the history of New York City, by the way. And they're going after him because he understands it, and they're going after him, and he's a true patriot. What they're doing to Rudy is a disgrace. Greatest mayor and the greatest prosecutor. I mean, he was a crime fighter. He was a crime fighter, but this was the greatest mayor. And, you know, if I would have said that 5 years ago, or 10 years ago, it wouldn't have meant as much. Now you realize what having a great mayor is all about. Because when you look at what the hell is happening to our cities run by Democrats, all run by Democrats, there's never been anything. It's a crime wave, the likes of which we've never seen before. It's scary. People are afraid to walk down the streets of New York, and nobody gets prosecuted, except Republicans, by the way. In every fake news story about the election, they always begin by stating that claims are unproven. This is the fake news. Those claims are unproven. You ever notice you read a story and you're reading about massive fraud, but they don't write about that too much. You know, the biggest thing is they don't write, but they always say, while this is totally unproven, and you're saying, well, wait a minute, we caught thousands and hundreds of thousands of people, and then they go, while there is no evidence, you know, they have these little sound bites, but the craziest of them all is, and always done in unison, because, you know, they work together. This is, if this were business, they'd be put in jail because it would be called a monopoly. But the biggest and the craziest of, the big lie, they call it. You know what's the big lie? The opposite is the big lie. The election was the big lie. And I've got to tell you, I've got to say this. I've never said it before, but I've always thought it. If I lost the election, I'm okay with that. I'm okay with it. Seriously. If we lost the election, we lose an election. I'll go home. I'll start building buildings. I'll do something. I'll keep myself busy. But you know what? If we lost the election, we know when we lose. You know, in Georgia, they had an election. We did so well, and everyone knew we won by hundreds of thousands. And they stole it from us. And what happened is we had two senators running a couple of months later. And you know what happened to them? The Republicans said, we're not going out to vote because this was rigged. This election was rigged. And they know it. You know when you win and when you lose. If I lost this election, I could handle it pretty easily. When they steal it from you and rig it, that's not easy. And we have to fight. We have no choice. Have to fight. And it starts right here with the amazing patriots in Arizona. And you're proving the fake news media wrong. You're proving them wrong because the evidence is monumental. Just like Russia, Russia, Russia. Remember? People would come up to me during the campaign, the first campaign, and they'd say, sir, do you know anything about Russia? No. What do you ask? Oh, no. Just, I was curious. You know, there was like these rumors. Another one would come up a month later. Sir, do you have anything to do with Russia? No. I never even thought of it. But after I got asked that question 4 or 5 times, I said, what the hell is going on with Russia? And it was a fake deal made up by Hillary Clinton with a fake dossier where they paid. They play a different game. But, you know, ultimately, we're much bigger than them. We have many more people. Because when you go over their policies, the fact is those policies are not a 50% of the vote. We have many, many more people. They're tough, they're mean, and they stick together. They do stick together. But their policies are so bad, they're so pathetic. If they ever had our policies, maybe there'd be no Republican Party, I must be honest with you. Because we haven't until now, and it started with these incredible people, many of whom are sitting right here. The state senators from Arizona, it started with them, and now it's turning out to be a revolution in this country. Because people are saying, even some Democrats, they're saying no. Knowing what happened in the election is a good thing, not a bad thing. It's a good thing. And what are they trying to hide? Why wouldn't they want it? Now, they're trying to hide at a level. That's why I don't understand guys like Ducey and your commissioners. These commissioners are so bad. But, you know, you have the witch hunt. Remember the great witch hunt? And the impeachment hoax #1 and impeachment hoax #2. And it shows you how the Republicans can really stick together. We have great Republicans. You have Jim Jordan, you have, I mean, I'm going to get in trouble, but you have Jim Jordan and Devin, and by the way, you have 3 of them here tonight. These guys, I hope you love them all, because those 3 are fighters, but we'll introduce them in a second. They've already probably spoken. I hope they have. That way they won't take up any of our time, right? But they're great. Here's just some of the shocking information the auditors in Arizona have already reported. So this is reported. This isn't coming from Trump. This has been reported. More than 74,000. Now, I lost by about 10,000. We didn't lose. We won by a lot. But they say we lost. So we need more than 10. So here we go. And we have numerous categories, almost all of which are much more than we would need to win the election. And again, remember the word determinative. If I lost by 10 and we found out that there were only 2 dead people, okay? But there weren't. There were thousands and thousands of dead people that voted in different states. Thousands and thousands. Some even applied for an application to vote. Do you believe that? So not only did they vote, they applied for an application. But if we had 2 dead people and we lost by 10,000, I don't consider that. I only talk when it's much more than you need. So think of this. 74,000 mail-in ballots were counted with no clear record of them being ever sent. Other than that, it was very good. There's no record of them being sent, but they were counted. So nobody knows where the hell are they, but we would count them. The county has refused to disclose how many of these 74,000 were in-person early votes and how many were magically appearing in a mail-in ballot box near you. How about those boxes? How about those boxes? How about those boxes where they were coming in and Biden was getting 97% of the vote? No, I don't think so. I mean, in all fairness, we came for rallies here. We had 42,000 and 44,000. And he came, and he couldn't fill the 8 circles. They had to use the fake news. No, they were calling the news. Please, would you please stand over here, please? They're getting newspaper reporters and reporters to stand there. They're standing with cameras. They couldn't fill the 8 circles. The only thing I liked about his campaign, because he didn't really campaign, the cabal campaigned. Lots of people campaigned for him. But I did like the contractor. And it wasn't Hunter Biden with his artistry. But think of that. No, the contractor, those circles were so beautiful the way they were done. You know, I'm very good at building buildings and painting and all these different things. No, painting, like, I know what a good paint job is. And you're not getting it from Hunter. But no. No, it was so professionally, it was so professionally done. It was incredible, so good. In fact, I probably won't do it yet, but at some point I'm going to find out the name of the contractor that did those circles because I want to use them for something. But what about Hunter Biden getting $500,000 per painting, and he never painted before? Could you imagine if my kids did that? Could you imagine? And now they're justifying it. Well, we want to make it non-transparent. No, actually, you should make it transparent, I guess. But actually, you shouldn't make it at all because it's a bribe. It's a bribe, 100% bribe. You know, you have good painters. For $250, you can have a portrait done on Central Park. Guys with pencils, they do so incredible. They're geniuses. They're just geniuses. You go to Central Park, and they have all these artists lined up. You negotiate a deal. They'll do it for $250. They're unbelievably talented. Some of them are beyond belief what they can do in a short period of time. Hunter Biden's getting $500,000. It's a bribe. It's disgraceful. And the fake news media is talking about it like it's okay. But we should have transparency. It's unbelievable. And the laptop, I miss you too. And the laptop from hell, it's a laptop from hell. When you look at that laptop, people are writing about it, meaning a very tiny group of people are writing. Some books are coming out, some books by some very good people. But you know what? When you look at the laptop from hell, and then you watch the interview, it was Russia that did his laptop. Then they say, was it Russia? Well, it may have been me. It may have been them. I think that's the end of that one. It's always Russia. Do you ever notice it's never China? Because they're all getting rich from China. They're not getting rich from Russia. It's always Russia. Russia did it. Russia did it again. No, it's a disgrace. By the way, I stopped their pipeline. It was stopped. They have a pipeline going into Germany, going into Europe. I stopped it. I put sanctions on all these states and all of these companies who were building it. Biden approved it. And then, as you know, you've heard this before, he stopped the Keystone XL pipeline. And the real number is 48, not 8. They said 8,000, 48,000 jobs. And they lost all over the country. People sold their home. They were so excited they were going to be building this pipeline, environmentally much better than a truck, much better, frankly, than a train, a railroad, much safer. They were building it, and he stopped it. Like in the first week, he stopped it. And yet he approves the biggest pipeline in the world going from Russia to Germany, and we're supposed to protect Germany. I said that. I said, by the way, you would have never even heard about that pipeline if it wasn't for me. Nord Stream 2, Nord Stream. Nobody ever heard of that. Nobody ever talked about it until I came along. Nobody did. Look, I get along with Putin because that's a good thing. I got along with him. He got along with me. But nobody was ever tougher on Russia than I was. This pipeline is the biggest thing they've ever done. This is billions and billions. And I asked Angela, and I get along with Angela too, but she's doing what she's doing for Germany, although I think the pipeline's a big mistake for Germany because they might as well just wave the red flag or the white flag because it's over. It's over. They're going to get 60, 70% of their energy from Russia. So I said, so let me ask you, so we're spending billions of dollars to protect you from Russia, and you're paying billions and billions of dollars for energy to Russia. What the hell is that all about, right? So I stopped it, and within a couple of weeks, he approved it, and now they're going to be restarting it, and they'll have it finished in a couple of months, and they're going to make billions and billions of dollars. But the American pipeline is stopped, and I can only say that's called America First versus America Last. I mean, it's just, they're destroying, look, they are destroying our country. And you know, if the election were the way it were, and let's say they were doing a great job, number one, you probably wouldn't be as enthusiastic. Let's say they were doing a great job. By the way, your Arizona border, which I put up the wall, and it was great. It was the best it ever was. And now what's pouring into your state is not even to be believed. Not even to be believed. But you know what? If instead of doing the horrible, they're saying it was the worst 6 months in the history of the presidency. I don't know that that's true, but I would say it is. If you look at what's happened to the economy, How about the vaccine? I came up with the vaccine. They said it would take 3 to 5 years, going to save the world. I recommend you take it, but I also believe in your freedoms 100%. But just so you understand, but it was a great achievement. It was a great achievement. And we started, we're doing 1 million people a day. And then they said, we're going to put a pause on one of the vaccines. What that did, that set it back so badly. And so now they're saying what a wonderful job he did. They don't say it too much anymore. With respect to giving the vaccine, now it's turning out that they can't say that anymore. And what they've done is because they don't trust the president, people aren't doing it. And that's as simple as it can be. We did such an incredible job with COVID, with getting the gowns, the supplies, the ventilators, the masks, everything, and the press did nothing but kill us. They would say, look how well India is doing compared to the United States. How's India doing? How is India doing? India is going through hell. They said, look how well South Korea is doing. They would always try and pick the best country anywhere in the world that had the least problem. Those countries now are being ravaged by this plague that was sent to us by China. And by the way, China has to pay us retribution. All right. There were nearly 4,000 people who voted with a registration date after the cutoff on October 15th. So you have a cutoff, a legal cutoff, but thousands of people voted, and that's illegal. Why did 4,000 people vote? Additionally, there were more than 11,000 individuals who were not on the voter rolls the day after the election. Think of that. They weren't on the voter rolls the day after the election, but who were on the list of voters that was published 1 month after the election. So they weren't there for the election, but a month later they happened to find them, okay? This alone is more than the supposed margin that you needed. It's 10,457 votes. We beat it in every category. There were 18,000 people who voted in Arizona in 2020 who were then purged from the rolls immediately after the election. Why didn't they purge them before, Sonny? Could I ask you that question? I mean, you know, Sonny said they cheated. They cheated. They cheated. We're becoming like a third world nation, and it's happening. And then 168,000 ballots were found to be printed on unofficial, very thin, flimsy paper. In other words, sounds to me like they were short of ballots and they just made them up because you have what's called, quote, voter secure paper. It's very heavy. It's like the dollar bill. It's like, you know, it's very complex stuff. But they didn't have that. And so they had 168,000 votes, and that's required. It's required. You have to have it. And they found it on paper. And the reason they noticed it, I guess, number one, it was very light, but they saw that when you hit it with a certain pen, it went right through the paper. They say, what the hell kind of paper is this? That's 168,000 votes. And so that also would have been invalidated. They wouldn't have allowed it to be on Election Day. They wouldn't have allowed it. 168,000 votes. I wonder who they voted for. Tell me. I wonder who they voted for. Would you say it was 100% for Biden or 97%? It was also revealed in a recent hearing that there are thousands and thousands of duplicated ballots that do not have a serial number, suggesting that votes may have been fraudulently duplicated and counted multiple times, time after time after time. You saw it in Georgia. You saw those people go in. They said, there's a water main break. Everybody leave. Everybody leave. Everybody got the hell out. They don't want to drown. They don't want a water main break. And a few minutes, a short while later, a woman, a political operative, we all know her name. We all know her name, and it should have been taken care of. It should have been taken care of. But a woman comes in, but it is now. It's in court, and it's a big deal. She came in with a group. She didn't go back to her machine. They went for the table. They lifted up the skirt of the table, and lo and behold, it was loaded up with ballots, but they weren't ballots that were in boxes that ballots come. They were in other, whether it was suitcases, it was totally different. They took those and they started putting them in, sometimes 3 times, sometimes 5 times, and they stood there And I'll tell you what, when people looked at that, they got sick. People threw up looking at it. And law enforcement did very little. But now what's happening is, I believe the courts are going to do a lot. It's a big deal going on. That was total criminal behavior. So you hear those hundreds of thousands of votes. We won the state of Arizona, and we won it decisively. And we won other of these states. Isn't it amazing? Barack Hussein Obama he beat Biden all over the country decisively. So did Hillary, except in 5 swing states where Biden wiped him out with the black population. So I think that he's not going to beat Obama, but only in these states. So he did poorly, except in these states he had massive victories. We're really smart people. We can't let this happen. We can't let this happen. Yet this is only the beginning of the irregularities the Arizona audit is uncovering. The authors and the auditors have collected a sworn affidavit stating that county election workers lowered signature matching standards from 20 points of comparison to 10, to 5, and eventually down to 0. In other words, they abolished all signature matching entirely. In other words, you have a bad signature. So the machine was picking up a lot of bad signatures. They said, this is no good. Let's lower it. Let's lower it. They brought it down to 0, so you had no signature matching. Perhaps this is why the county has refused to comply with an official subpoena sent out by your great Senate to provide images of the envelopes, which would prove whether they counted ballots and whether or not they had signatures at all, because we think many of them had no signature at all, because you can't sign them all during the night. We think they didn't. And you know what else they didn't have? They didn't have folds. In order to have a ballot counted, it has to be folded. But so many of these pages are laying flat, without a crease, without a fold. Cybersecurity experts have also testified that the logs for the election management system software were wiped under highly suspicious circumstances. This is them saying it, not me. With more than 37,000 requests made to the server in a single day. Think of that. Erasing the data permanently for the entire period surrounding the election. Gee, I wonder why they erased the data surrounding the election. I wonder why. The county has, for whatever reason, also refused to produce the network routers. We want the routers, Sonny. Wendy, we got to get those routers, please. The routers. Come on, Kelly, we can get those routers. Those routers. You know what? We're so beyond the routers. There's so many fraudulent votes without the routers. But if you got those routers, what that will show, and they don't want to give up the routers. They don't want to give them. They are fighting like hell. Why are these commissioners fighting not to give the routers? How simple could it be? That will tell the truth. What are they trying to hide? Unbelievably, the auditors have testified that the master database for the election management system, sorry to tell you, has been deleted. I wonder why it was deleted. I wonder, Sonny, why was it deleted, please? Meaning the main database for all of the election-related data in Maricopa in 2020 has been illegally erased. It's been erased. The county has also refused to provide the authority for the information. We want the information needed to access vote tabulation devices. To top it all off, they've refused to hand over the all-important chain of custody documentation for Maricopa County ballots. They don't want to give it. Why don't they want to give it? Why? I stand before you today to demand nothing less than full and complete cooperation from Maricopa County and from the Maricopa County Board of Supervisors, who have fought your Senate at every single turn. Incredibly. Why? 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 Why are Republicans fighting it? All they have to do is hand it over, and they're either going to be right. They're not even saying they're right. They just don't want it. They don't even say they're right. They know, I think they know a hell of a lot about what happened. But why don't they want to do that? The citizens of Arizona, an incredible state that, as you know, I won 4 years ago, and I won it again. Somebody came in from a media group, a very good media group, actually, said, what was the difference between 2016 and 2020? I said, well, the difference was I actually did much better in 2020. It's true. We got 75 million votes. We got 12 million votes more. No president in history has ever gotten anywhere close to 12 million more votes. And that's with them doing counting. So you can imagine what the real number is, okay? No, you can imagine. Because the easiest way of cheating is to throw them away. That's easier. The postmen don't have to deliver them. The post office doesn't have to deliver them. You know, it's a very Democrat group, and why not? They have the greatest pension plan that anybody's ever seen. Why not? And that's okay. But, you know, a lot of them didn't go to their location, and when they were signed, they didn't get brought back. But when you think about it, and when you think about the corruptness, why don't these people want to find out the truth? The citizens of America deserve answers. We're talking about America. You know, we're not talking about Arizona anymore. We're talking about the United States of America, because this has gone on. And I hate to say it, but this is because you're really bad. But this has gone much worse in Detroit, Michigan. Much worse. We have a bunch of rhino senators up there, the exact opposite. You have one or two. We have a whole bunch of them up there. But we have a bunch of rhino senators. This is not as bad anywhere near, in my opinion, as Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. You take a look at Philadelphia. What they did to our poll watchers were incredible. We had poll watchers, nice people, great people. They love our country. They were Republican, but more than anything else, they want an honest counter. They just wanted to be. They'd turn them in either way. They were physically thrown the hell out, and they couldn't get in for days. So during that period of time, vast numbers of things happened that are terrible. And not only did they throw them out, they boarded up the windows so they couldn't even see inside. And then we got a court order, and they wouldn't obey the court order. And then they kept them 60 feet away. Do you know what 60 feet? That's like me looking at a vote with the lady in the beautiful red dress right over there, right? That's 60 feet. And I'm saying, oh, gee, how's that ballot? I'm 60 feet away. They were threatened by thugs. In Georgia, a recent review of ballot images has shown that the error rate in the hand audit of Atlanta's Fulton County was a whopping 60%. Would you say that's high? Including outright fabricated vote totals, as well as obvious duplications of ballots amounting to potentially thousands and thousands of extra votes for Joe Biden. All of this is in addition to the recently discovered 35,000 illegal votes that were potentially cast by people who did not live in the county in which they voted, minor detail, as well as 100,000 people who were purged from the Georgia rolls after the election. Think of this. I lost by like 11,000, you know, 11,000. They have 100,000 plus. They were purged. They were deleted after the election was over, far exceeding the margin needed for a Republican presidential victory. Far. That's just that one item. That's only one, but we have many. In other words, it is determinative. It's no wonder that Joe Biden and the radical Democrats are going absolutely crazy, screaming about voting rights, ranting about democracy. They want democracy, and resisting every effort to look into the massive fraud in 2020. Just so you understand, you know, we talk about cancel culture. The biggest thing that they want canceled is they don't want you talking about the election that just took place, because they say, holy shit, they caught us. They caught us. They caught us. And you know, we've seen it. It's a scandal, the likes of which we've never had. But the only way you get away with a scandal is if they don't talk about it. They don't want to talk about it. But they're going to have to. If your votes are like people are thinking they're going to be, and when you get up and announce whatever it may be, it's not going to be able, they're not going to be able not to talk about it. The press is so dishonest. They don't want to talk about it. But if you think about cancel, everything about cancel culture. They want cancel culture. But what they don't want to do is anything having to do with the 2020 election. They almost got away with it. They may have gotten away with it. We're going to find out because something's going to have to be done. But I don't think so. I don't think so. You know, if somebody robs Tiffany, a beautiful jeweler, 57th and 5th, good location, excellent location, and they steal the diamonds, and then they get caught, they have to turn the diamonds back. It's very simple. Amazing the way it works. And I only wish that my friend Mike Pence had that additional courage to send the results back to the legislatures, because it all happened so quickly. You know, they schemed in this plan for 4 years. This all happened so quickly. If he would have sent it back to the legislature, somebody gave him bad advice. You know, the great Thomas Jefferson, you know what happened? Georgia, they couldn't count their votes accurately. Hear ye, the great state of Georgia cannot accurately count its votes. You know what Thomas Jefferson said? Long time ago, he said, then we will keep the votes from the great state of Georgia. He didn't say we're going to send it back. He didn't do, I'm saying just send it back. Maybe it comes back. But when you have more votes in some places by a lot than you have voters, I think Mike would have had the right to say, excuse me, we have more votes than we have voters. If you don't mind, please take a look at it. Just a couple of the basics, just a little basics. So I wish he did that. I wish he did that. The radical left, Democrat, Communist Party, rigged and stole the election, and we caught them. The time to hold them responsible and fix this broken and corrupt system is not in 2022, where it may be just as corrupt, and if it is, you're not going to win, or in 2024. The time is right now here in Arizona. Right now. Right now. And you know what? If you don't get down to it, and if you don't find, I hate to say this because it's terrible for our country, but you're going to have Republicans that aren't going to want to vote. They're not going to want to work for Kelly. They're not going to want to have to work for Wendy and for Borelli, Mr. Italy. They're not going to work for you. No, you know what they're going to say? They're going to say, we're not going to let it happen again. And that's what happened to the two senators. They're not going to work for you, and you got to get going. It's the most important issue. You got to get going. We don't have the luxury to sit back and to wait until the next election. We don't. So many people, and they're such good. I said it before. Sir, think to the future. You're leading in the polls. We just got back from CPAC. I was at 98% approval rating in the poll. 98%. Sonny, what am I here? I don't know. You think we're at 98? I want to find out. I don't know, 98. 98, and they say to, sir, you're leading in the polls, sir. You're way ahead of everybody. Run in 24, sir. You're going to win. And I say, wait a minute. I just won 6 months ago. The survival of our nation depends on holding these responsible, and we have to hold these responsible elections. We have to hold those that are responsible for the 2020 presidential election scam. It was a scam. Greatest crime in history. And we have to hold these people accountable, and hopefully, and I say this, and I have confidence in it, hopefully, your Attorney General, Mark Brnovich, your state Attorney General will take information, this incredible information given by these incredible warriors and patriots. He's going to take it, and he's going to do what everybody knows has to be done. If he doesn't do that, it would be so sad. And your governor, Doug Ducey, he will be of no help to you. No help to you. It's incredible. He doesn't want to know the answer. But more is being found out and uncovered every single day, not only in Arizona, but all over the country. Numbers like you wouldn't believe. Just this month, the former U.S. Attorney for Philadelphia, William McShane, you know, did you ever hear of him? William McSwain, who previously prosecuted much ballot stuffing, many cases in Philadelphia, published a stunning letter, and he did it, I think, from the heart, stating that his office received allegations of large-scale voter fraud. This is Philadelphia. And election irregularities all over Philadelphia, and also one of the most corrupt places from a voter standpoint to another, along with Detroit and some others, one of the most corrupt places. But he found, and he wanted to investigate all of this, but the Attorney General, Bill Barr, ordered him to stand down. And McSwain wasn't the only one, and McSwain is very angry about it. Then Bill Barr went out and said there was not fraud in the election of any consequence. Look at the numbers I'm giving you today. Look at the numbers. And, you know, we need 2 large ones or 3 small ones. We have many, many to look at, but 2 large ones. But in other words, we're right there. So it is of consequence. It's only because, sadly, he just didn't look for fraud. When that letter came out from McSwain, that was a sad day for this country. Sad day. And I was wondering, because he was all excited. McSwain was all excited. He was going to go in there. Then one day it was like, it's like somebody died. There was no more excitement. He was told not to do it. One day I noticed that the fake news media was calling Bill Barr a puppet of Donald Trump, and he wasn't a puppet at all. They had a picture of him with strings where I was totally controlling him. Just not true. They were saying that Bill Barr, you have to go against him, Bill Barr. Then they started saying they were going to impeach him, and they were what's called playing the ref. You know what that is? They're doing it with the Supreme Court, too. They're nasty. You see, now again, they want to impeach Kavanaugh. Not that they want to impeach him. They want to scare the hell out of him so he votes along the liberal lines. Because if he votes along the liberal lines, they're playing the ref better than the great Bobby Knight of Indiana ever played the ref. Remember, with the chair and the this. They said, Bobby, you're not going to win that call. He said, yeah, but I'm going to win the next one. That's what they're doing. The great Bobby Knight, who was one of our great endorsements, I will tell you. When Bobby Knight endorsed Trump, Indiana we were doing well there before. You ought to see after. Bobby Knight, that's a piece of work. But he said, it may not work this time, but it's going to work the next time. And the refs were afraid to say anything. It's true. That's what they're doing with our Supreme Court. They're trying to scare Kavanaugh. They're talking about an impeachment. I just saw it again this morning in the paper. They want to impeach Kavanaugh again. It's not that they do. They want him to rule for them. And if he rules for them, they're never going to impeach him. But if he rules against them like he's supposed to because he is a conservative, then, but they also don't want to have a packed court. So they're saying, we're going to pack the courts. We're going to pack the courts. And they did the same thing to Barr. They said, Trump controls him. As soon as I saw that, I said, here we go. Because how does he get out of that? Very simply, just do things like the vote wasn't rigged. And he stopped them from doing it. And I'm so saddened by it. But I also understand it because nobody does it better than these crooked Democrats. Nobody does it better. So I don't blame Barr. I don't blame a lot of people. But they become weak, and they become ineffective, and they become frightened. Like it or not, we are becoming a communist country. That's what's happening. That's what's happening. We are beyond socialism. You know, when you have no press, that you can talk to, that's how a communist country begins. They have no press. We find things in Arizona, and other than a couple of great networks, we have no press. We have no voice. I only have voice because I get great ratings. You know, ultimately, ratings are very important. But even those lights, well, they still have those lights going. That's good. I'm very impressed. That's good. Thank you. And if the Democrats get some of the things they currently want passed, including the Election of Corrupt Politicians Act, And infrastructure, which isn't infrastructure, it will get even worse. What they're asking for is incredible. The Green New Deal, going to destroy our country, this Green New Deal. It's Green New bullshit, okay? That's what it is. It's bullshit. No more windows in buildings because environment. You know, I always did great with these buildings. The bigger the window, the better I did. The bigger those windows. I wanted floor-to-ceiling windows. But they say you can't do that anymore. We don't want any more windows. It's going to be real hard to sell apartments, I think. We have a beautiful apartment, and for environmental reasons, we have not put windows in the building. Oh, great. Well, that sounds good. These people are crazy. Whatever happened to cows? Remember they were going to get rid of all the cows? They stopped that. People didn't like that. Remember? You know why they were going to get rid of all the cows. People will be next. People will be next. Sadly, even in many red states, the rhinos are letting the radical left have their way on everything. You know that. In fact, I have to say this. In many cases, these weak Republicans or rhinos, these weak Republicans are worse. They're worse than Democrats. And you have a couple of examples right here in Arizona. And don't nod and don't say it because I don't want to get you in trouble. Maybe you can convince them to do what's right. But you have a couple of them right here in Arizona, and nobody knows. And I'll tell you what, they're going to be defeated. As sure as you're sitting there, they're going to be defeated in the primaries by real Republicans. And it's not so far off. You have secretaries of state certified election results that were highly inaccurate and even fraudulent. They're certifying elections where the numbers are fraudulent. You have poll watchers, as I said, who were illegally blocked from vote counting in Philadelphia, Detroit, and many, many other cities. In certain areas, there were more votes than there were voters. Think of that one. That was so easy, you know? You say all these different things. A lot of people talk about the machines. I say, you know what? Too complex. You don't need them. It's so many different forms. They cheated in so many different ways. You don't have to get complex. You don't have to be a great scientist from MIT. They cheated in so many different ways. People were caught on camera illegally running ballots multiple times through voting counting machines. And remember, I am not the one trying to undermine American democracy. I'm the one trying to save American democracy. I'm trying to save it. Our country is being destroyed by people who have no right to destroy it. People that won an election illegally. People that should not have been elected. They lost in a landslide. Joe Biden and the radical Democrats are wrecking our nation. I don't even believe it's him. I honestly don't believe. I don't think Joe knows where the hell he is. You want to know that? I don't think it's him. Crime is surging, inflation is soaring, the border is gone. We went from the strongest border ever to the weakest border ever. The border is non-existent. Illegal aliens are pouring in record numbers. Critical race theory is being forced into every facet of our society. Free speech is being crushed. Men are being allowed to compete in women's sports. How do you like that? Think of that. How fair is it? Did you see the weightlifter? I hate to tell you this, women, but he shattered your long-standing record. This guy gets up, boom, boom. Like a 9-year record. Sonny, a 9-year record. Boom. Did he do it with one hand, you know? It's so unfair. It's so unfair, so ridiculous. I'll be honest, though. Look, we all like to win. If I were a coach, I'll tell you, I wouldn't be talking to too many women as we know women. I'd be getting some of these people that they're women. Somebody said that if LeBron James ever decided to get the operation, how would he be? How would he be on the court? And by the way, LeBron James, you can have him. Did you see the basketball ratings, which were terrible? but they went up after his team was defeated. So, and that's happening. It's in sports, and people don't want to see it. They want to see athletes. They want to see competition. But the last thing they want to see is men competing in women's sports, because very soon you're not going to have women competing anymore. I hate to say it, okay? I hate to say it. You're going to have a coach have a full team, and that team is going to win the national championship so easily, you're not going to have women competing. They're taking away your rights. That's really a women's rights movement. You can't let that happen. And now they just allowed it to happen in the Olympics. The Olympics has gone bad, too. Our infrastructure is being hacked by foreign countries left and right. Thousands of rockets are being fired at Israel. And Joe Biden is allowing America to be pushed around and laughed at all over the world. This didn't happen when I was president. This didn't happen when I was president. In addition to all of our work to hold Democrats accountable for their election fraud, which is massive, we must fight harder than ever before to win a colossal victory for America First Republicans next year. We have to, but again, you have to solve this problem. We're going to work our asses off, right? But you have to solve this problem. Have to solve this problem. We must reclaim the House. We must reclaim the Senate. State legislatures all over. We did so well last election. And governors' mansions all across the nation. Last year, Republicans made massive gains. I got no credit from these people, none. I made 58 phone calls, 58. They're called teleconference calls. Everybody I made it to did so great. I was responsible for getting these people elected. In the House, we were expected to lose 25 to 35 seats. And instead of losing 25 to 35 seats, we lost for the first time in many decades 0 seats. And in fact, we shockingly gained 16 seats. 16 seats. And in the Senate, without my involvement, it would right now be 60-40 with the Democrats in the lead. Nobody likes to talk about that. We had such an incredible evening in the election. We did so well in the election. You know, they like to say, I'll tell you, you had a gentleman here, a legislator here, who said, thank you, and I love you too. He said, sir, I was prepared to lose my election. People that you know, I was prepared. I didn't know him. I spoke to him for the first time. He said, I was prepared to lose my election. 2 months before, I was prepared. Then I went to one of your rallies, and I saw the level of enthusiasm with thousands of people unable to get in, 42,000 people, thousands unable to get in. I saw the enthusiasm, but I was very much prepared. I assumed I was going to lose. He's been there for a long time. And then he said, and then the night before the election, I walked outside with my wife, and there were all these Trump signs, Trump, Trump, all over the place. Elect Trump, Trump Pence. They had Trump Pence and Trump. But they had all of these signs, and they had the American flag, and everybody was going wild. I said, you know, darling, I think I'm going to win the election. And the next day, sir, I won the election, and I won my district by a lot. And you lost my district, and there was no way that I got more votes than you. You got far more votes than I did, sir. There's no way possible. And I said to my wife, this election is rigged. This election is rigged. And what the fake news goes around saying is the reason we did so well in legislatures, the reason we did so well in Congress with not any loss but 20, all of these gains, I guess it was 16, all of these gains. And the Senate, we did very well, even though Mitch McConnell shouldn't have said we won't give 10 cents more than $600, and the other side saying we'll give you $2,000. Like it or not, that's not good politics, okay? And frankly, they were going to get it anyway. It was a disastrous thing. He did ads where he was in the ad, and he's not a popular guy. So we should have won those seats. But if you just forget those 2 seats, we would have been 60-40. What we did, and what they try and do is say, well, the reason we won didn't we win every legislature in the country, right? The reason we won is because the legislators were far more popular than Trump. No, it's not that. That's why I tell you that rather long story, because we carried them in, but they didn't give me and the presidency, they didn't give us the votes. That's all it is. It's very simple. And they're liars, and they're scoundrels, and they're very bad and very dishonest, but that's just the way it is. Right here in Arizona, we must fire one of the most extreme leftists in Congress, your radical Democrat Senator Mark Kelly. And it's not that he's leftist. It's that he doesn't care about the border. With all the time I spent winning the legal stuff, I think we had 11 lawsuits, we won them all, and then I could start. It would have been so much easier. But I never heard from him. He never said, how can I help? He couldn't care less about your border, and your border in Arizona is one big, we did such a great job, but he did absolutely nothing. Kelly has done nothing to protect your state. And if you look at the Biden border crisis, and it is beyond a crisis, you know, they're saying, oh, don't use the word crisis. Well, now that's like a nice word. He's completely owned and controlled by Pelosi and Schumer and the open borders left. Now the socialist Democrats and communists are trying to include amnesty in their reconciliation bill, which would turbocharge the crisis, and neither Mark Kelly nor anybody on the Democratic side, they're all fake moderates, you know, they're fake. They don't say a word about it. If this change isn't made soon, Arizona will never be able to recover from what's happening. You're getting it worse than most because you're on the border, so big on the border. Taking back America begins with kicking Mark Kelly the hell out of the United States Senate. With us today are a few of the Republican candidates running to beat Mark Kelly next year. And maybe if you're around, stand up. Blake Masters. Where's Blake? Blake, thank you. Blake, thank you, Blake. Good. You're doing well. Jim Lehman. Jim? Thank you, Jim. Great job. Thank you, Jim. General Mick McGuire. General. Thank you very much. Thank you, General. Also with us are Arizona's gubernatorial candidates, Matt Salmon. Hi, Matt. Carrie Lake. Whoa. Whoa. Wow. This could be a big night for you. Thank you very much, Carrie. Good job. Steve Gaynor. Steve. Thank you, Steve. And State Treasurer Kimberly Yee. Thank you, Kimberly. And I have to tell you, maybe the most pleasure I'll get out of any introductions tonight, because these guys are warriors. They are warriors. They love your state. They love this country. We're thrilled to be joined by several of our really best people in Congress. They happen to reside in a place called Arizona. First of all, Andy Biggs. Where's Andy? Warrior. You're so lucky to have these three guys. There's no games with these three guys. Paul Gosar. Paul. Incredible. And a woman that I've fallen in love with, and the First Lady is very upset about it. She is incredible. What she did during the impeachment, especially the impeachment hoax #1, she made a name for herself, and she didn't do it for herself. She did it for this country. Debbie Lesko. Debbie. Great, Debbie. Those are three great people. I actually said, do we have our stars? Yes, sir, they're here. They wouldn't miss it, but I appreciate it. You really are. You're warriors. You're warriors. And you love this country. Thank you. When we win giant Republican victories and reclaim control over Congress and really reclaim it over our country, we will halt the radical Biden agenda in its tracks. By the way, remember I used to say it's going to be worse? It's not him. I really don't believe. But remember I used to say it was going to be worse? Bernie Sanders cannot believe what's happening. He's the happiest guy. He said, I never knew this was going to happen. Is that right, Paul? He said, I never knew this was going to happen. He can't believe it. This is so much more radical. They never talked about this. They never talked about closing up the pipeline the following day. He talked about, we're going to study it, we're going to look at it. No. He did that, got some votes, and he closed it. And how about the union on the Keystone Pipeline? How about the union where they endorsed Biden? And I said, you know you're going to get screwed, but they've always been with Democrats. But you know what? The voters are with me. The voters are with me, and the workers are with me and with us. We'll stop the federal takeover of elections and stop the Democrat attack on voter ID. Did you see the disinformation campaign? So they do a poll the other day, and it showed voter ID, Andy, is at 88%, including Democrats. It's like 88%. Everybody wants voter ID. Who doesn't want it? You go to the grocery store, you give a picture. Do anything you do, you give a picture. Voter ID is at 88%. So here's their line all of a sudden. We don't want voter ID. Then one day, they pass it on and the press plays along. We've always wanted voter ID. We've always wanted it. It's the Republicans who don't want it. Think of this. And they had the same thing with defund the police, right? We want to defund the police. We will defund the police. Now, crime is at the highest it's ever been in history. These police departments have been devastated. They have treated our great law enforcement, I just met a lot of them backstage, so badly, with so little respect. But it's a very unpopular thing. They didn't know that. Who the hell wouldn't know that, defund the police? Who would not? I'm telling you, they've got advantages, but they're sort of dumb in a lot of ways. Their policy is so bad. So now they're saying, you guys see that. It was the Republicans that wanted to defund the police. It's just like Russia, Russia, Russia. It's just, they make up stuff. I watched that Shifty Shift go up to the microphone. It's extremely important to save our country. President Trump is a paid employee of Russia. It's unbelievable. And you know what they say? If they say it over and over and over again, in a year from now, a lot of people are not going to remember who wanted to defund the police and who did it. And they're not going to remember about voter ID, Andy, and we got to be careful with that. Paul, we got to be careful with that. Debbie, you're not going to let that happen. You're not going to let it. But that's what they do. And you know what it's called? Disinformation. They make up a lot of crap, and they say it over and over and over. And one day, you say, oh, who was the one that wanted to defund? I guess it was the Republicans. The Republicans are against a very serious and a very sick enemy. We will end Joe Biden's war on American energy and ensure that the United States remains the dominant energy superpower on Earth. Can you imagine they're out negotiating with OPEC again? I mean, it's not even, we didn't need OPEC. That's why I was taking everybody out of the Middle East, because we needed the Middle East for oil. Now we need the Middle East for oil again. We will break up the big tech monopolies. And we will immediately shut down Joe Biden's border disaster, and we're going to end, by the way, catch and release. I ended catch and release. You know what it is? You catch a criminal, and you take his name, or whoever. You take his name, her name, and you release them into our country. You release them. We did something slightly better. Stay in Mexico. We have stay in Mexico. And we will restore our southern border. We want to remain, let them remain in Mexico. You know, the people, they're all over the United States, your border, but and you're getting hit hard, probably harder, much harder. But all over the country, you can go to Iowa, you can go to all over the country, they're being hit. And it's a crime wave. Big crime wave is coming out of it. Go all over the country and you'll see you're being hit. Right here in Arizona, Joe Biden has utterly demolished your border and cynically betrayed the people of the state because he never said he was going to do that. I told you he would. In May alone, Border Patrol encountered 540% more illegal migrants in the Tucson sector and 1,500% more in Yuma than the same period when I was. Think of that. 1,500% more in 1 year. Now, that doesn't mean as much as this. For every one you catch, I think 10 come in. Some people say it's 5 or 6. Let's say it's 10. You're talking about millions of people are coming into our country. We expedited removals and deported criminal aliens by the thousands. We took out MS-13 gang members by the tens of thousands. We got them out. Thousands and thousands of these absolute killers. And we built nearly 500 miles of beautiful border wall, the same wall that they wanted. I went with them. I said, I don't want the anti-climb panel on top. You know the panel on top that you see? I said, I don't like it. I don't want it. They said, sir, it's anti-climb. I said, oh, in that case, I like it, right? And they got to paint the wall, by the way. It sounds not so nice in a speech. How can Churchill make a great speech and say you got to paint the wall, right? Pretty basic. Remember what I used to say? There are two things that will never get obsolete. Everything's obsolete. You have a new computer. 3 days later, you read it's obsolete. Two things. What are the two things? The wheel and the wall. We achieved the most secure border in U.S. history. Biden's open border policies have blown it all up in shreds so fast. And they've enriched the drug cartels, the child smugglers, the woman smugglers, and the vicious MS-13 gang members. They are making more money with human trafficking now and drugs, the sale of drugs. We had fentanyl down to the lowest it's been in 15 years because it's not just people. It's the drugs that come across. We had it to the lowest. This drug is a killer. A small amount can kill 1,000 people. A little amount can kill thousands of people. We had it to the lowest level it's been in 15 years, and it was going down, and now he blew the thing up. And I used to say it's incompetence, but they must really want this to happen. Why wouldn't they have finished the wall? It would have taken 2 months. What are they doing? What are they doing? This is not just a national security crisis. It's truly a humanitarian catastrophe. Last month alone, the remains of 43 people were tragically discovered along the Arizona border, just your border. Nearly 100 migrant children were found stranded in the sweltering Arizona desert, having been cruelly enticed to the United States by Biden's rhetoric. He said, come in, everybody, come in. And they heard that, and they all started walking up. And I said, you can't come in. You'll be stopped. And we have 28,000 Mexican soldiers that are there. I said to the president of Mexico, who I like a lot, and he actually likes me. He's from a different persuasion. He is a socialist, but he's a great gentleman. And I said, Mr. President, you're going to have to stop them because we're building the wall and they're coming in. And I worked out a deal. I said, I will not put tariffs on the thousands and thousands of cars you send over on a daily basis, but you have to put 28,000 soldiers on our border free of charge. And he said, I will do that. And we had, now they're gone. And now they're all gone. And those soldiers knew what they were doing, I'll be honest with you. There was no games. There was no games. We did a great job during the construction of the wall. Once the wall is up, you didn't need them. But you have to finish the little empty areas of the wall. The flood of illegal immigrants is also placing a crushing burden on communities across the state and throughout the nation, depleting your already overcrowded schools and hospitals and public services of critical resources. You know that. They're so crowded now because there's so many people. Many of them can't speak English. They can't. The whole thing is a catastrophe. Your kids are saying, what the hell is going on? Even before the Biden border crisis, Arizona taxpayers were spending a staggering $2.3 billion a year to pay for the welfare, education, justice system costs, and illegal immigration. $1,000 per Arizona household every year, and that's now going to be doubled and tripled. In our movement, we believe that your taxpayer dollars should go to support truly needing America. You have to take care of American citizens. And look, we all have a heart. I see the same thing as you do, and we want to help people. But when you say, come up, come to America, our country can't afford it. Our system is breaking down. We can't afford it. You just can't afford it. The whole world, you know, this is in Mexico and Guatemala and Honduras and El Salvador. They're coming in from Yemen. They're coming in from all over the Middle East. They're coming in from Haiti. Large numbers are coming in from Haiti. They're coming in from all parts of Africa. They're coming in from Europe. They're coming in from all over the world. And our country's not, no country is set for that. Number one, you can't afford it. Number two, on a human basis and even on a common sense basis, it's going to destroy, they are destroying our country. They're destroying our country. Under my administration, America was respected again, and respected like never before. We withdrew from the United Nations corrupt. We withdrew from the United Nations corrupt Human Rights Council, so corrupt, which seemingly existed to criticize Israel and the United States. That's all they did, is criticize us. But not only has Joe Biden re-entered the shameful and ridiculous international tribunal, but just this month, you saw this, the Secretary of State, Tony Blinken, sent them a pandering and very, very strange letter begging the United Nations to come and investigate America for its alleged systematic racism. So you have systemic racism, he says. He wants it to be investigated. Systemic racism. I said, that's not really, that didn't happen, did it? I thought, there's nothing, it's a joke about it, but I said, that's not serious, right? Systemic racism. Please come and investigate the United States. The Biden administration's action is an outrageous insult to the American people and to our country. The United States of America is the most just and virtuous nation in the world and the history of the world. And I'll tell you, you're not going to have a country very much longer. You're not going to have a country. We do not, you know, always I talk about we can do this, we can do that. 3.5 years is a long time. 2 years is all they need. They're going to knock out the filibuster. You watch. I used to tell Mitch McConnell, you know what? You better knock out the filibuster and get everything approved, because they're going to do it. They will never do that, sir. Why won't they do it? Because it's bad for America. Do you think they care about America? They don't care. And the first day they announced that they're going to knock the hell out of it. You watch. The 2 senators are going to do a foldo, and you're going to have a big problem, especially in light of all of the disasters that Biden has caused. We shouldn't be apologizing to the world. We're apologizing for America, just like Obama apologized. Remember? He apologized. They should be apologizing to America for what they've done to it. That's who they should be apologizing to. The Biden administration's America Last philosophy, because it's America Last. It's America Last. That's all it is also making a mockery of our country right here at home. Earlier this year, Biden signed an executive order pushing toxic critical race theory into our children's schools and into our military. How about our military? This poisonous left-wing doctrine is flagrant racism, plain and simple. And it has no place in our schools, no place in our military, and no place in our country. If you remember, I ended it very rapidly with a very powerful executive order, but that executive order was immediately repealed and terminated by the radical left. A Republican Congress will defund it and ban it once and for all. They're going to ban it. They will get it done. In testimony before Congress, lightweight chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, Mark Milley, actually defended the teaching of CRT, a Marxist ideology, to our men and women in uniform. Can you believe it? These soldiers, they're the greatest. They're hearing this stuff. They're saying, I can't believe what I'm hearing. The soldiers are saying it. He said he wanted to, quote, understand white rage. He wants to understand white rage. What the hell is he talking about that for? Our generals should not be focused on learning left-wing ideology. They should be focused on defeating America's enemies and winning our future wars. Hopefully we don't have them, but if we do, we have to win them. And I say it, and I'll say it, whatever. The only reason I appointed Mark Milley in the first place is because two of the world's most overrated generals, James Mattis and John Kelly, could not stand him, had no respect for him, and would not recommend him under any circumstances. They even tried to send him to Europe so he wouldn't get the job. So when they didn't like him, I said, let's give this guy a shot. Last summer, when rioters were threatening to destroy Washington, D.C., Milley practically begged me not to send in the military to stop the destruction. I was thinking about it. It's a big step to do it, Insurrection Act, big step to do it. But I was getting close, but he didn't want to do it. He didn't want to do that. Why would we ever want to do a thing like that? After walking, and I did plenty, signed an executive order on statues. You knock down any of our statues, you go to jail for 10 years. And it all stopped. It was a miracle. Right, Andy? It all stopped. Paul, that was great. We stopped it when they were pulling down statues. And then it got crazy. They started pulling down statues of Abraham Lincoln. You know, it would have never stopped. But I signed that order, and as soon as I signed that order, not one event took place. You get 10 years for even attempting to take it down. It all stopped. Amazing. It's amazing. After walking with me to the smoldering church, they tried to burn the church down the day before. The smoke was still coming out of it. Milley issued a groveling apology because he caved to the press. He was afraid of the press. And it was really in order to take off the pressure. Again, is what they do to these people is they come after them through the media, through every way they can, and they end up being weak people. All he had to do was say that, I'm proud to walk with anyone representing the President of the United States, and people would have understood that. He apologized. And that was the end of him. When he did that apology, that was the end of him. Nothing to do with me. It's the office that counts. As the radicalization campaign in our military illustrates, we are seeing almost every major institution in American life be taken over and weaponized by the extreme left, including law enforcement, the military, the corporate media. These people here, it's just, I hope they're, more than anybody in this room, I hope they're listening because they're destroying our country, and especially the big tech companies which are engaged in illegal censorship of the American people. As a first step to restoring free speech in our country. This month, as you probably read, I filed a major class action lawsuit against big tech giants. If you want to join, you can. We're suing Facebook, Twitter, and Google in federal court. And we will keep on fighting until we've reclaimed the sacred right of freedom of speech for every single citizen of this nation. What they do to the conservative voice, and again, they say private, but they have Section 230, which basically gives them immunity, that gives them no problems at all. We don't need lawyers. So once they do that, they have a right that nobody, Section 230, that no other company has anywhere in this country. So that no longer puts them in that category. And we can go after them, and let's see what happens. But far worse than even big tech is the lamestream media, which is no longer free and, with few exceptions, is totally corrupt and is truly the enemy of the people. That's all that you can say. You know that. And maybe I see it better because we can give them a statement that's so accurate and so proven, and then they write it the opposite. Whereas if you're a carpenter, you're an electrician, you're a worker, you're a lawyer, whatever you might do, you don't know that. You know, you just think that what you're reading, they have the lowest rating right now, approval rating, in history, in the history of the rating business. They have their lowest rating because people have gotten wise to them, and I think it's something that, in terms of legacy, I'm very proud of what we've been able to do. I'm very proud of it. Nobody had any idea the level of deception and corruptness. The media doesn't report the news anymore. They only report bad things about us and make it worse. They report bad things and they make it worse, and good things about them, and they make it much better. And they make it much better. If there's anything bad about the other side, they never want to talk about it. Look at Hunter Biden. They don't want to, you don't see it. They don't want to talk about it. Can you imagine if that were a Republican? If that were a conservative in some high level? As an example, the network nightly newscasts hardly ever discuss the crime rate, which is at an all-time high, the disaster taking place at the border, or Joe Biden's very slow vaccine rollout. It's very slow, very slow. They actually tried to take credit for the vaccine. That didn't work out too well. They don't blame Biden for anything, including the fact that the virus is making an unexpected comeback and ravaging countries throughout the world. That only in a short time ago, it looked like it was going to be good, but nobody says it's Biden's. Does anybody say it's Biden's fault? None. And I'm not even blaming him, but does anybody say it? Because the job we did was so incredible. That's why we're in the position we're in today. So incredible. And that's all they wanted to talk about. They wanted to demean, and it was a disgrace. The radical left is determined to ruin everything in America. That's what they're doing. Woke politics takes the life and joy out of everything. Wokeism makes you lose, ruins your mind, and ruins you as a person. You become warped. You become demented. The U.S. women's soccer team is a very good example of what's going on. Earlier this week, they unexpectedly lost to Sweden 3-0. And Americans were happy about it. You proved that point before I even said it. Now the left is in the process of destroying our national pastime, baseball. First, we saw the embarrassing spectacle of the commissioner of baseball bowing to the radical left on voter fraud. You saw what they did. You saw they moved the All-Star game. Now, one of the most beloved and storied franchises in baseball, all of baseball, I watched it as a kid at Yankee Stadium. The Cleveland Indians will be changing their name, a name that was filled with history and memories. The new name will be the Cleveland Guardians, which is terrible. The Cleveland Indians, you know, that's such a, if I were an Indian, I'd sue them Indians. I mean, what could be better? You know, especially if you have a good team, the Cleveland Indians, it's one of the greatest names, one of the most incredible logos. People loved it. They are going absolutely crazy in Ohio over the name change. The Cleveland Guardians, what's that all about? The insanity of the left knows no bounds, and both Indians and baseball fans should be greatly insulted. They want to take away our history, our heritage, our culture, and everything that holds us together. By the way, remember when Bill Clinton was in Arizona? Do you remember that? It was about 125 degrees out. Sorry to bring that up. And he has a bad heart. And he said he was playing golf, but actually he was meeting on an airplane with the Attorney General discussing Hillary. I wonder what they were discussing. Remember, he said, no, I was only there. I was only there to discuss my grandchildren and golf. Remember that? He said he was out there to play golf, but it was about 121 degrees that day, which is a little hot. What's happening to our country has sadly happened to so many others. We are at the beginning of a communist system. Radicals are seizing power and destroying everything we hold dear as Americans, and it's happening. And I said it was going to happen. They dismantle the rule of law, censor speech, take over the free press, imprison political opponents. You see, that's happening all over. Look at what I've been through for years. And, of course, hold fake, phony elections. It was recently revealed that during the hand recount in Fulton County, Joe Biden had batches of ballots go for him. 100 for Biden, Nothing for Trump. I got nothing. I got nothing. Give me a one vote. One vote. Even Fidel Castro only got 99%. Okay. So many of our state and local offices have been overtaken by corruption. The radical left installed partisan Democrat prosecutors who are not interested in equal justice but political justice. It's happening at a level that we haven't seen this happen in many, many years. They would wield law enforcement against political opponents, inventing crimes that never had been prosecuted before, while murderers and criminals walk free without prosecution at all over the streets of our cities in particular. They've turned our cities into banana republics where the innocent are persecuted while crime soars. Just look at what they've done in New York City. Innocent people are beaten in the streets daily. People are shot in Times Square. Rapes and murders are totally out of control. And yet, what are the leftists and the Attorney General and District Attorney's offices working on so diligently? This is what they're working on so diligently and with such passion. It's get Trump. They campaign on getting Trump. Their campaign, we're going to get Trump. We're going to take down Trump. They don't talk about the murderers. They don't talk about no cash bail. They don't talk about all these dangerous people walking the streets so people are afraid to come to New York. They're still coming after me because I will never stop fighting and winning for you. Going through it for 5 years. 5 years. From the very beginning of our movement, we have been fighting against some of the most corrupt, powerful, and entrenched forces imaginable. The professional political class, the deep state, the fake news media, the Russia hoaxers, the globalists, the socialists, the communists, the lobbyists, the corporate special interests who are absolutely terrible, and now the critical race theorists. All of them oppose our movement for a simple reason. We believe in putting America first. It's very simple. We believe in strong families, strong borders, and strong sovereign nations. We believe in fair trade for the American worker. Look at what we did with the worst trade deal in the history of the world, NAFTA. Now we have the USMCA, and Mexico and Canada are not thrilled. That's a good sign, by the way, but it's a great deal for us. And the stiff tariffs that I put on communist China, I tell you what, all they wanted to do is not have me put on tariffs. We were getting along absolutely great until COVID came, the China virus came. We were getting along great, taking in billions and billions of dollars from China in tariffs. And what was happening, our farmers, with the trade deal that I made with China, were doing phenomenal. They are doing now phenomenally because China is buying numbers that nobody's ever seen before. Corn and soybeans, everything. They're buying. But you know what? Once the virus came in, I didn't even talk about that trade deal. It meant nothing to me. It meant nothing to me. So sad for what's happened to our country. So sad what happened to the world. So many people are dead and so seriously injured, and they're going to have to pay. We believe in low taxes, low regulations, unleashing American energy independence, and we have to have independence with our energy. Think of what they're doing. Think of what they're doing. Look at what's happening at the pump. Nobody's ever seen anything like it. It's going up at a record pace, and you're going to be at $7 or $8 or $9 a gallon. And putting American jobs before the interests of foreign corporations. We believe in ending the endless foreign wars, rebuilding our military, supporting our warriors, taking care of our great veterans, and bringing our troops back home where they belong. Where they belong. And as you know, I started the move out of Afghanistan. I think it was impossible for him to stop it. But it was a much different deal. I told the Taliban, I spoke to the leader, and I said, let's call him Mohammed. I said, Mohammed, we're leaving, and we're going to get along. But just in case, for any reason, you decide to do something terrible to our country or beyond what's normal, because they've been fighting for 1,000 years, in your country, we are going to come back and we are going to hit you harder than any country has ever been hit before. And I told him that. This was a telephone conversation, had a number of them. I said, we're going to get along great, but I just have to make that statement. We're going to hit you harder than any country. And he's a rough guy. You know, this guy's been fighting from the time he's 2 years old. That's what they do. They fight. That's what they do. They fight. Russia did very poorly against them. Russia is Russia now, not the Soviet Union, because of Afghanistan. So they fight. I said, we're going to come back and hit you harder. And I said, do you understand? He goes, ah. Yes. He's a rough guy, you know. I started off the conversation. I said, Mohammed, how are you? President Trump. Hurrah! Not a lot of social grace, but, you know, that was a nice, he was being nice. I think he was being as nice as he could be, Andy. But they're rough, you know, he's a rough, that's all they do is fight. But I said, we're going to come back and hit you harder than any country has ever been hit. And your village, where I know you are, and where you have everybody, that's going to be the point at which the first bombs drop. I told him that. I told him that. And he said to me, and I think he actually meant it, he said to me, I understand. And I believe, beyond a deal, I believe we had a real understanding. And then we had the election rigged and stolen. And now they're going wild over there. That would not have happened if I were president. Would not have happened. Too bad. Too bad. We believe in patriotic education for our children, and we strongly oppose the radical indoctrination of America's youth. We're not going to let it happen. We are committed to defending innocent life, protecting our Constitution, and to proudly upholding the Judeo-Christian values of our nation's founding. We embrace free thought. We stand up to political correctness. We don't like political correctness. And we reject the intolerance of left-wing cancel culture. We believe in law and order, and we respect and support the men and women of law enforcement. And above all, we live by the words of our national motto, and it will never, ever change. In God we trust. Sustained by these timeless American values and powered by the strength of these unstoppable ideas, we will press forward and we will have victory after victory. Never forget the heart, soul, brilliance, passion, and patriotism of the young people here today. They're young, great people. And Charlie, I want to thank you. What a job you've done. What a job you've done. And to the devoted citizens all across our country, is so much greater than our opponents can even imagine. We are there. We have massive majorities, and we're much stronger than them. Much stronger than them. We're much stronger than they are. Because unlike their agenda, our movement is not driven by the lust for control and domination of others. Our movement is driven by a love for America and an ironclad faith in the American people. I have that faith, and you have that faith. We are not fighting for socialism, communism. We're not fighting for servitude. We're fighting for God, for country, and we're fighting for freedom. We know in our veins that our American inheritance was passed down to us by generations of patriots who gave everything they had, their sweat, their blood, and even their very lives to build America into the most powerful nation in the history of the world. And we are not going to let it be taken away from us by a small group of radical left Marxist maniacs. So, my fellow Americans, our movement is the greatest in American history. There has never been a movement like we have had. We won the most important election, 2016. We did more than any other administration has ever done, and we did it quickly. We're not going to let it be taken away from us. The 2022 midterms are the next phase of the battle, and we will not stop there. We will keep on going until we have made America great again. With your help, we will take back the House, we will take back the Senate, and we will take back that beautiful, gorgeous White House, and we will take back our country. So working together, we will make America powerful again. Thank you. Thank you. The whole country is watching. The whole country is watching what you have done. Thank you. We will make America wealthy again. We will make America strong again. We will make America proud again. We will make America safe again. And we will make America great again. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you to Turning Point. Thank you.